The title of this video isn't a joke. When I say that I'm a worthless loser, I believe it. And odds are, if you're a terminally online person like me, you are too. Don't be offended. It's not an insult. Let me explain.
This your way of telling me I shouldn't have killed the Newton?
The most efficient animal on the planet is the condor. The most inefficient animals on the planet are humans.
Well, you shouldn't have killed it for spite. That's bad business. Don't do that.
But a human with a bicycle becomes the most efficient animal. And the right computer, a friendly, easy computer that isn't an eyesore but rather sits in your desk with the beauty of a tensor lamp. The right computer will be a bicycle for the mind.
Now, when I call myself and some of you worthless losers, it's not meant to be degrading or insulting. I'll be clear that we all have innate worth as human beings. What I mean is this: as young people living in, most of us, in modern industrialized societies, we are powerless over the shape and outcome of our lives. Watching all of the wars and global conflicts spiral out of hand around the world and knowing that there's nothing we can do to stop it. Watching the cost of living crisis spike, trying to find a decent career path in a world that is increasingly cutthroat and competitive. And it all culminates in this feeling of powerlessness and helplessness, which makes you feel like a worthless loser. Here's how I would visualize all of this from my own perspective. I am a numb, docile being floating silently through the void that is this lifetime. I can move my limbs and change the direction I'm floating in, but only slightly. My limbs move slowly and I can't change the speed at which I'm traveling. All around me are deadly hazards, most of which I seem to miraculously avoid by mere inches. I live by reaching out to grab opportunities, moments, people, and resources as they pass by my side. I have to act quickly and move my body well ahead of time, or else I'll miss each opportunity forever. Only the hope of a future where I'm fully autonomous keeps me afloat. And in all this, the only thing that really gives me, and I think many other people, a sense of agency and autonomy is having access to technology and the internet. I want to talk about this particular circumstance that many modern young people find themselves in, and how we can find and acquire a semblance of joy in this very dreary and hollow life, especially in the context of those who are terminally online. And most importantly, I want to retain the sense of optimism about the future. It can't be all doom and gloom. Man. As you can probably tell, I'm in a hotel room right now, February. So, yeah, I'm basically just going to be living out of here for like the next 2 weeks or so. I'm just going to have to deal with it. Maybe I should give you a tour of my setup here. We got a mountain bike in here. I'm keeping this here because it's going to get stolen if I leave it outside. Yeah, just kind of, this is like my home. And then I got a little kitchen thing going on here. Just frozen shit. You don't eat very good when you live out of a hotel, unfortunately, so. And in spite of living out of a hotel, I still have all my like fancy ass headphone gear. Because I'm a nerd. You know, can't help it. Mess. Yeah, that's about it. Hotel life. Yeah, so I'm in a bathtub right now. I don't know why. You know, I always like to get creative with my filming locations and like, you know, all the content I see online now, everything always has some sort of like Subway Surfers gameplay or Family Guy episode because everyone's fucking attention spans are shot. So, you know, hopefully this is bizarre enough and confuses you enough that it attracts your attention so you don't click off the video. So it's going to be a bathtub. So I want to start out by talking about how choice and freedom in Western democracies is really what I've come to realize just an illusion. Now, growing up in the USA, I was always told how lucky I was to be growing up in a free country with civil rights and democracy. This is absolutely true if you contrast our country, like the US, with, you know, authoritarian dictatorships like Russia or China. So juxtaposed, like countries like the US and Australia and the UK are these like sort of liberal free utopias. But really, I feel like our leaders constantly thrust this argument at us to distract us from the fact that our Western democracies aren't really nearly as free as they're claimed to be. Now, I'm going to use the US as a test subject for this video because that's what I'm the most familiar with. So what I mean by the fact that capitalist democracies aren't really free is that supposedly there's the free market, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, but really, as you grow up, you come to realize that we are all serfs to the capitalist system. And really, invisible mechanisms built into our societies are designed to entrap you into whatever position benefits the elites the most. And I'm not some anti-capitalist, Marxist. Capitalism sucks, but it's really the best we can do. But we can do a lot better. I would say with absolute certainty, and until very recently, we really didn't get to choose our careers. For most of us, we will end up working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, in a blue collar or a white collar occupation that will pay us just enough for us to get by. And we have to obey our bosses and our landlords and the rules they set, because there's no way someone our age is going to be buying a house anytime soon, probably before 40 years old. Unless you're exceptionally lucky and fortunate, you can't escape this framework. So really, you can quit, but you actually can't without it significantly derailing your career and making it harder to find a job, which is necessary in order to not be homeless and die in the streets in America. And the 40-hour work week is sort of this template that isn't written into law anywhere at all, but is imposed on us by society, and it's something that we sort of begrudgingly accept. And this is a good example of like an invisible mechanism that I mentioned earlier. Now, when it comes to picking which career you want within the framework, I mean, there's some level of autonomy, but I don't think there's as much autonomy over that as you'd like to think. For example, myself, I was always told that like you can do anything you want in America. You can choose any career, be anything you want, but you really can't, and it's sort of decided for you just by nature. I wasn't really good at most things in school. What I was good at was literature and reading. I was like the best in my class at that. And so naturally, I'm an English major. I want to go to law school. I'm okay with being a lawyer, but it's something that I feel has almost been decided for me by my natural aptitudes. There was a time where I actually had wanted to be an engineer or an architect, but I'm terrible at math and I can't draw. So that, in a way, limits what I can do, and there's yet again another invisible mechanism. It's not like there's anything that's legally stopping you from sitting down and drawing out an architectural sketch, but in order to be, competitive and successful in our current society, you have to be good enough at it in order to make a decent living. So really, I couldn't be an architect or an engineer. And this is all, in my opinion, sort of a built-in feature of our societies, which is inequality. And in my opinion, the United States and other Western, capitalist modern market countries, they couldn't survive without it. The system needs there to be the rich and the poor for it to work. It needs people to be forced into careers that they are the most economically productive in, whether or not they actually like it. And it makes one's self-worth proportional to how much money they make. Okay, that was a lot. Well, I think I should talk about something more positive and something less mind-numbing, and that's how we can break free of this. And in my opinion, at this point right now, the answer is technology and spending time outside in nature. Look at people who only work remotely. This is something that's come in, into fashion only in the past 3 or 4 years. They don't have to commute, and they can basically live anywhere they want. It gives them a significant amount of autonomy over their lives that wasn't possible even 5 or 6 years ago. And look at online content creators like YouTubers. These people, random nobodies, are able to fully support themselves with their creative endeavors, which 20 years ago was something that just wasn't possible. It's given, the internet in general has given so many more people the opportunity to make artistic and creative endeavors their full-time job. And even if you're already entrapped by the 40-hour work week, by having access to the internet, we can join any community, consume whatever content we please, and connect with people from all over the world that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And second, another thing that I want to relate to is the concept of a universal basic income. It's this idea that with automation coming, you see this with like AI art, AI everything, that technology will be so productive that there will basically be so few jobs that a UBI will basically be essential. In a way, it's dystopian to think that 90% of jobs today are just going to be done by robots. But yeah, I think that it's not 100%, all doom and gloom. Like I think that like if it is led by the right leaders, then what it could potentially create is a sort of semi-utopia where most of us just don't have to work at all, because technology and robots are able to labor so much that we can spend most of our time enjoying ourselves and being productive through volunteering and by just making art. It's unlikely that it will turn out that way. It probably will go south, considering the fact that this is being led by major corporations who don't really care about our interests. But I think that with the right people who advocate for the right things, it's not impossible for the future to be actually better than it is right now with AI and automation. All right, well, it's kind of cold out right now. It's drizzling a little bit. I'm going to get this done. So, what you were looking at my camera just a bit ago is the Great Salt Lake in Utah, and right now it is drying up. And so the problem with that is that if it happens, there's arsenic in the lake bed here, and there's about 2.5 million people who live near the lake, and if it dries up, arsenic-laden dust storms will blow into heavily populated areas and basically will make this whole area uninhabitable. And that's a problem, of course, to the whole world and the U.S., but especially here and also for me because I live here and I go to college in this area. And one of the hardest things to accept that I have come to realize, though, is that there's really nothing that ordinary people like myself can do about the lake drying up. And even if you're not living near an ecological nuclear time bomb like I am, there's something I've noticed is this incredible, just pervasive sense of despondency among people in my generation about their future and about how they're hopeless and that there's nothing that they can do to control these things. And there is a part of that that's true because there's nothing we can do about it. Who can really make a difference in this is the leaders of our government, and that's not going very well so far. In most cases, I think we can agree on that. Now, at just 20 years old, I don't know that much, but one thing I do know is I've just come to sort of realize how precarious life is. You know, I know that I've been bitching about how unsatisfactory, we'll say, this world is right now, but you think about how things could have been so much worse. Like, what if Hitler won World War II? What if COVID had a 90% death rate and 90% of us died? You know, these things could have happened. It's incredible. What I've realized is that the fact that you and I are experiencing reality at all in any way is an extraordinary gift. But what's really the solution here? Now, of course, like I've been arguing before, it involves technology and the internet, but I also think that there's something else. I'm sure you've heard about Stoicism before, and specifically the concept within, and also that one of the things about Stoicism is that you shouldn't worry about the things you can't control. I think it was one of the 3 Greek philosophers who said that. And of course, that is true. However, realistically, no sane human being that cares about the world around them can just stop worrying about things like this. It's impossible. Whichever old Greek guy said that didn't mean for people to literally just to stop worrying about things that they can't control. I think what was meant by that statement was, do not let your worries paralyze you and make it so that you can't enjoy the very limited time you have on this earth. What I've come to the realization is that if you don't worry about these things, if you're not concerned about these things, then it shows that you don't care, which is not good at all. And that attitude of not caring or digging your head in the sand is what's making this worse in a lot of ways. You shouldn't not worry about something like this. It should worry you, but only to a point. And there is this common theme among young people where, you know, not having kids as much, not trying, feeling hopeless about the future because, you know, what if 30, 40 years from now, much of our world is uninhabitable or overheating or we're running out of water. And I think, so let's think about it this way. Like, let's say in 40 years, the world ends because of climate change and a world war. There's nothing we could do to stop it. It just happens. But imagine if you spent those 40 years constantly paralyzed from the fear that it will happen. And now what you could have done instead of that is not let that fear paralyze you. Still try to have optimism about the future, and then when the world ends, at least you got those 40 years, which is better than nothing. And when you're in the midst of worry and despair, it's hard to see that, but that's what I've come to the realization of. And maybe it is a bit of delusion, but I think that we all have to be a little bit delusional in order to survive. And I think that there are many different ways you can sort of numb the effects of this, having community in your life, turning off the news every once in a while. I think personally what's worked for me is escapism, specifically with technology. Now, some people escape with drugs and alcohol, which I don't think is good. But with technology and the internet, escapism through those means can be harmful, but it doesn't have to be. If through the internet and through tech you found a sense of meaning and community online, and it adds a lot to your life, who cares if society or other people consider it escapism? It really only matters what makes you the happiest. I don't think escapism is inherently a bad thing, because to be honest, you come to realize as you get older that a lot of the world is a terrible place. So the fact that we can even simulate and create virtual realities that we can customize is in itself incredible. And I think if it's used right, it could really aid a lot of the despair that's common in my generation. So basically, just do whatever you can to get the most joy out of the limited time you have on this earth. That's it. Oh, my fingers are already numb. Damn. Started raining for a bit, but it stopped now. I don't know. Feels like I'm at the ocean, but I'm really just in the middle of a desert right here. It's cool. It's 8 times saltier than the ocean. Alright, so now I'm sitting on a space heater. I hope I don't break it. You know, it's kind of precarious. So after all this, you might wonder if we have no real autonomy over our lives and what they'll look like, then what's the point of living? And I know that sounds kind of morbid, and it is, but I think it's honestly worth asking if these things are true. And I think that in spite of all this and in spite of all these constraints, there is still one realm in which we can experience true autonomy free from anything and everything, and that will be in the relationships we have with other people. In my opinion, true autonomy, euphoria, and freedom exists within the communities we form and the relationships we have with other people. And these realities we create, if we mingle with the right people, can be anything we want them to be. And technology enables this in a way that humankind has really never experienced before. A good way to put it is love isn't taxed or regulated. And really, from my 20 years of living on this floating rock in space, I've learned that the only way to create true autonomy is by forming authentic relationships with people that we care about and love, and finding autonomy within those spaces we create. I know it might sound strange, but let me explain. So when we form relationships with other people, a sort of new world is formed within the confines of that relationship. And best of all, it's free of any physical constraints because love isn't taxed or regulated. So this is pretty abstract. I think I should give some more concrete examples, and I only can speak from my own experience, but I remember when I was really young, 11 or 12, this is when I first started having access to the internet. I got into this thing called intro making, and there was this, have you ever seen this intros where they have the text with the bouncing screen and the music, or those animated Minecraft things? I know that everyone hated them and they are kind of obnoxious, but there was this community that was formed around making these. I joined this intro making community kind of around the same time when my home life was really, really bad. I was 11, 12 years old. I couldn't escape. I had no money, I had no autonomy, I had no freedom. But what I did have is I had access to the internet and a computer. And on that I could interact with people that I couldn't normally interact with, and I could surpass the physical constraints around me. And that was the only thing that offered my life a sense of meaning. It's a microcosm for, in a broader sense, how we can find autonomy and freedom within a world that is constantly constraining us and who we can be. And other examples of this too, any sort of community that's formed online around a movie, video games, content creators, YouTubers. And this is why it sort of goes against the concept of short form video, because short form video is vapid and shallow, and there's a deep connection isn't being made when you're scrolling through TikToks. If you look at that thing about VidCon where no one showed up because no one really has much of a personal connection to the people they watch online, it's all just TikTok. It's not conducive to creating these types of deep bonds that are necessary in order for the social fabric of society to exist. It's when you're watching TikTok or Reels or whatever, and you've been scrolling for a really long time, it almost feels like you are numb and that you're not in control of your body anymore and like you've gone into autopilot. I think that reflects how when we lack deep connections, we lack freedom and we become these sort of numb agents that are controlled by outside forces. So in the case of TikTok, it's controlled by a giant company and their algorithm. Essentially what I'm saying is in order to find autonomy within this world, we have to enhance our social and interpersonal lives with technology. I think using technology properly might be the only way to fight the inevitable atomization that's coming in the next few decades. And another sense of lacking freedom and feeling worthless is, there's sometimes it worries me that what if the internet as I love and know it completely dies out? What if there are no more spaces to form communities and connections that are free from interference and regulation and control and outside influence? I don't know. An example of this is seeing all these old YouTubers quit who used to make long form content. Think, Meat Canyon, Stampy Longnose, Tom Scott. I'm sure you've all seen Matt Pat quitting. And one of the things they cited was the rise of AI and short form content as a reason why they're quitting. And it concerns me because it's almost this inevitable coming of like AI and feeling like there's no more space left for long form content because our attention spans have all been zapped. I sometimes fear of a future where the media we consume is entirely inauthentic, impersonal, and artificial. Real authentic content creators who make long form content and are passionate and have a soul are honestly a dying breed in 2024. It's sort of analogous to like the gentrification of cities where small local businesses and buildings and architectural styles with character and houses built with style are sort of knocked down in place of building chain stores and completely covering a field with identical looking townhomes. And all I hope is that no matter how much the internet becomes gentrified, I would just hope that there's always going to be, a few mom and pop stores holding on for dear life no matter what happens. All right. I know this is a terrible idea, but I'm going to try to ride my bike around here, around the hotel room, and I don't know why, but see how it goes. Oh, Jesus. Oh, my Lord. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Oh, shit. Okay. I need to put some shoes on before I do this. Oh. I can't get enough momentum to maintain balance, so I keep falling over. This is not working out. All right. At least I tried. Okay, we're once again at the end. I always say that I don't know what to say for a conclusion, but to be honest, I think for this one I could come up with something, but I'm just too tired, so oh well. And anyways, conclusions are mostly useless. I think that you get the point if you watch it. And by the way, thank you again for watching. I haven't uploaded in almost a month, and I know I've been busy. I posted on my community page, but sometimes there's this kind of insecurity of mine. I just feel like I'm not up to what it takes to be a YouTuber. What I do know is that even if I don't have what it takes to be a consistent YouTuber that does this as like a job, I still love YouTube. So I'm just going to do it no matter what, and hopefully I can upload more consistently, but no promises.
And what if, instead of it being in the right hands, it was in everyone's hands? Everyone in the world